Hey, Wembogan World Entertainment and PlayStation, more so Sony, has just made not one but two major announcements. One makes sense. The other is you've just killed gaming. And more so, you've just killed the console. Which, it really is what they've just done. Now, as you can see, the headline, they're going to end physical games. So, no more discs. Only digital downloads, which raises so many issues. Now, since they've announced it, you knew everyone else was going to jump on board, and sure enough, this then popped up today. Xbox may stop physical games and launch a 2-disc digital feature to convert discs to digital. Okay, so everybody is pointing out, it's like, this is pretty much the standard, what was always probably going to happen. Yes and no. The issue really does come down to what happens once they do it. Because, as I've just started off by saying, they've pretty much just announced the death of the console. Because if everything's going to just go digital, why the hell would anyone have an incentive to buy a console when they could just go, well, if everything is just going to be download, we're going to need massive memory storage and everything else for that. I'm just going to get a top-end PC. We're just going to get a gaming PC. Like, that's what's going to happen. I don't think Sony has really thought about that. The fact that, why would we convert to digital-only consoles if we could get more benefit out of a gaming PC? Because not just can people obviously get massive storage on gaming PCs, hell of a lot faster speeds to download and actual playability and stuff like that. You'll also have them going, well, you know what, if I'm going to be streaming or playing these games on download and stuff, I'm going to start streaming myself playing them and see if I can earn a bit. That's also what could happen here. So the idea that they're going to just remove physical games, and it does raise other big questions. By the way, what is funny is Domino's Pizza have called them out for this by putting in Domino's Pizza putting into the thing about the important update about the disc being thing, and said makes about as much sense as us changing to digital pizzas. That is the thing. It is kind of like, yeah. So there's been massive backlash to this. So like, we'll see parts of this article, and as you can see, it says Sony Interactive Entertainment has officially confirmed that many games what many gamers feared would eventually happen. Physical PlayStation discs are coming to an end. Now, the other thing that it brings up, which we'll see in here, the part that makes sense with the other announcement. The other announcement only happened the other day, which is they're going to phase out making games, newer games, for the older consoles. That makes sense from a business standpoint, because it's kind of like, do we really need to invest making games still for PS3 or PS4? I mean, the Xbox X and S and PlayStation 5, they've been out for what now? 4 years? 5 years? So once you hit like 3 years, I think it's time to start phasing out the older ones. Yeah, your consoles still usually have the backwards capability and stuff, but it's kind of like, it's not worth really making the games for the older generation consoles. So that stuff does make sense to a certain degree. What the other massive issue is that is going to happen with this is accessibility. Now, that's kind of brought up in this article as well. So you can see it saying, in a major announcement published on the PlayStation blog, Sony revealed that beginning in January 2028, all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be distributed exclusively in digital format. That means no more Blu-ray game discs for first-party or third-party releases, after the cutoff date. Instead, every new PlayStation game will be sold digitally through PlayStation Store and other retailers offering digital codes. Okay, now I think one of the things they're kind of overlooking as well is the PlayStation Store is not exactly reliable because they've had unimaginable amounts of data breaches. They have constantly been hacked. It's just every year there's just this wave and wave of people receiving emails. Hey, our store's been breached again, and your information may or may not have been part of the mass download that happened. And it's like, good God. So their firewalls are obviously not all that great. So the announcement marks one of the biggest shifts in PlayStation history and signals the end of an era that stretches back nearly 30 years from the original PlayStation. Which is like, what is the thought process behind all of this? So here is one of the main things here. As you can see, a massive blow to physical media collectors. Now that's one of the things as well. When you look at pre-ordering a lot of these games, a lot of places offer you these like exclusive collector box sets. So you get the game with the disc. Sometimes you get a CD for the music of the game. Sometimes you get the collectible kind of statues and the art books and all that type of stuff. And how are you supposed to do that with just a digital download? You can't. And nobody is going to do this idea of, well, we'll just purchase the box that comes with a downloadable code. It's like, why would you do that? So you can see it saying here, like, for collectors, we'll get there. I swear to God, we'll get there. Preservation advocates and consumers who prefer owning their games. And keep that in mind. That's another big issue. When you're downloading the games, you do not actually own that game. No matter how much you spent on it, you are essentially renting the game. This announcement is likely to be devastating. Physical games have traditionally offered several advantages over digital purchases. The ability to buy used games at lower prices, so your second-hand games. Lending games to friends and family. Trading or selling or reselling games after finishing them. Maintaining ownership even if online storefronts eventually close. Now, that's basically what I've just said about you essentially rent the games. Because it's the case of, well, I purchased the game, but if the storefront goes or something happens and they lose all of your data and stuff, you've lost the games that you've purchased. And you've purchased them for full retail price. So, hey, you want this edition? It's $100. You spend $100 and then you get that dreaded email. Your data has been breached on our storefront and all your shit is gone. It's like, oh. So, digital only purchases eliminate virtually all of those benefits. Once purchased, games remain tied to the user's PlayStation account with no secondary market or ability to transfer ownership. And of course, how many of us have in the past lended games to a buddy? It's like, hey, I got the new thing. And you're like, really? Can I have a loan of it? And they're like, what have you got to loan me? You're like, I got this one. And they're, oh, cool. And you trade and you have the other game for a couple of days or a week or something. And you hand the games back, providing your mate doesn't lose it or you lost it. So yeah, that kind of stuff is out there. But of course, one of the things a lot of people do is buy second used. So how many people used to go into GameStop and go over to the used and refurbished section, and you pick up the brand new game that's only come out, been out a month or something. It's $70 over there, brand new, but over here it's $30. You're gonna go for the second hand, most people. So then this is the part where they're kind of talking about what I was saying, that they're going to get rid and phase out the games for PlayStation 4 and stuff. So you see Sony's announcement comes as the company also revealed plans to sunset support for older PlayStation storefronts. Earlier today, Sony confirmed that the PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita, I always thought it was Vista by the way, but it says here Vita, will ultimately close globally in 2027, leaving many players questioning how digital preservation will work in the decades ahead. Which, that of course is the, well, if you buy the game but you then don't want to support the game, how does that work? So, that next one is one of the big questions right here. What happens to gaming prices? Because this is the thing. You're basically, when you're being charged $70 or whatever, that is for the manufacturing costs. It's not just the game cost, it's the manufacturing of the disc and the box and the artwork that goes on the box and stuff. Now, obviously, we're getting charged 70, 80, 60, whatever amount for the game, the disc and stuff. It costs them about 50 cents to make each disc. But then there's the shipping costs that they infer and all that type of stuff. That's why your game price is usually what it is. But if you're just downloading the thing, how exactly can they justify charging you $80, $90, $100? You know, it's like, no, screw you. Like, why would we want to pay all of this stuff? So, the other thing then to bring in to where this really kills consoles, as I said, accessibility. So, now this could also go with people saying, well, I can't buy a gaming PC because we don't have the connection to do it. Internet is great when it works for us all. And of course, we all know every place has different connections, different speeds. You're not going to buy a PS6 whenever that eventually comes out. That's digital only. And yet, you're in an area where fiber may not be available yet. Broadband is at the lowest end of the speed. It's like, it's not worth an investment. Why would you invest in it? Providing you're in an area that has top tier internet, that is where you're going to benefit the most. But a lot of places still don't actually have that. And the more you build up an area with fiber and all this type of stuff, the weaker it actually becomes. Do you ever notice a Wi-Fi signal? You buy a new phone, you get a top-notch Wi-Fi signal. Till you stand in a crowd of about 100 people using the same Wi-Fi signal, and all of a sudden you notice, hey, my top-notch signal that can run and download in nanoseconds, all of a sudden, hey, why is it taking a few minutes to download the same thing? Because the more and more you build it up in the one spot, the weaker it actually gets. And as I said, you could sit here in your house and you could have the absolute top-notch downloadable speed fiber that's just unbelievably fast for you. But your friend just across the street or a couple of blocks over also has fiber, but he has the lower end. That their street for some reason has a lower end, so it takes you 20 minutes to download everything, but it takes him 5 hours to do the same thing. That's a real reality that this decision is going to impact. And of course, even with the fiber speeds and all that type of stuff, the bigger question still would have to come into, well, if we're going to only have to be able to download the stuff, we're going to need massive storage for that. Every time you bring out a new system, you're only offering like a few hundred gigabytes. You're lucky if you release a 1 terabyte system to begin with. The likes of a COD game chews through your storage. Every download on that thing ends up being insanely massive. It's like, what the hell have you added into this game that has run this up that high? One game can destroy your entire storage on one system. you're gonna look at gaming PCs because they've so much more storage, so much more USB ports to add even bigger storages to, and of course you can take out the storage unit already in it and get a bigger storage unit, something that consoles really don't give you that type of option. So I think Sony hasn't just announced the death of physical media for their consoles. I think they've just managed to announce the death of the console altogether. Good job, Sony. You goddamn morons. It's going to be interesting to see if they reverse course with the backlash that is happening over this. But what do you guys think? Yeah, there will be people who say, well, when you buy a game, you're essentially just buying the disc for the download, the installation, everything else. Yeah, but again, half of it always stays with the disc. You will always own the disc. You can never lose the game when the storefront or the system gets breached or gets taken down or whatever. You will always have that copy. Let me know what you guys think. Does it bother you? Do you think this is a stupid decision? And if at this stage you still don't even have a PS5 and stuff, number one, what do you think about the idea of them phasing out doing games anymore for PS4 and stuff like that? But would it incite you more to go for a gaming PC than a newer console? Let me know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, hit that hype button and all of that good stuff. Cheers, and I shall catch you in the next one.